you can keep practicing what psychologists call confirmation bias. Have you heard of this? Confirmation bias. Do we have any psychologists in the room? None. It's okay. Maybe it's all right. Do we have anybody with psychology in the room? Confirmation bias is the idea that as soon as you think you're right about something, you dig in. I'm right. I know I'm right. Let me tell you why I'm right. Let me tell you why you're wrong. Let me convince you to jump to my side because I'm right. That's called confirmation bias. And everybody's subjected to it, everybody. And so if I think my club is really fun, what I will try to do is I will work overtime to convince you that my club is fun, even if you have a point when you say it's not so fun. Confirmation bias. Everybody has it. Your club has it. You have it. And so the idea is you let other people into that. This is called an open loop, some psychology terms. You writing stuff down? A closed loop is not good for you. An open loop is good for you. Let me give you an example of a closed loop. I love coming down south. I love coming to Tennessee. I love coming to Nashville. I've been to the Hermitage. I'm a big history fan. I love history, the presidents. The Hermitage, by the way, is Andrew Jackson's home, right? Because down south you name your houses. It's a southern thing. Up north, it's just the house. Down south, it's the Hermitage. So I've been to the Hermitage, and I love history. And George Washington, our first president, they called him the King President because he was like the first club president. You know, they had no club. And he becomes like the first president of America. He's like the club president. And they called him the King President because they were confused to make him a king or a president. They all came from Britain. And they couldn't let go of that old model of royalty. So he was kind of a president, he's kind of the king. They really didn't know what to do. Came up with a manual of procedure, MOP, for the country. And they called it something else. But the idea was that they were not going to have a king. They were going to have this president guy. So George Washington does a pretty good job. As you know, even in his lifetime, he was, he had some detractors. But for the most part, people like George Washington. He was a good first president. George Washington was on his... he was sick. He was sick. And so they called in the best doctors of the day to treat him. And they treated him in the best way that they knew. It was a concept that the people of the day thought was tried and true. It was the best way to save somebody's life. Anybody know what it was called? I didn't sound like anything. It was called bloodletting. Bloodletting. Gruesome. Gruesome. Best technique of the day, but gruesome. The idea would be that if you had bad blood, we'll just let some of that blood out, and then you'll become better. But you see, bloodletting is a closed-loop system, and also it's a very, very linked to confirmation bias, because all the people that thought bloodletting worked kept believing that it worked. In fact, here's how it turns out. If we let the blood out of your body and you live, bloodletting is the miracle cure. That's called the closed loop. Because nothing else helped you get better except bloodletting. You understand? And if we let your blood out of you and you died, you were too sick to save. If bloodletting couldn't fix you, nothing could. That's a closed loop, right? And we don't want to practice closed loops.